But yeah, it's going to get to that point, right, where he's just going to keep playing so well where you're going to be like, look, man, we got to start him. Like, it's nothing against you, Armando, but we've got to put him on the floor. You're still going to play a really big role for us, but this guy is just doing everything right, and we think right now he gives us the best chance to win. It'll be interesting to see how they balance it. And, potentially when they would make that move, I think it could be sooner rather than later. I think if they really feel strongly about it, that move could be made before they go into conference play against NC State.
Yeah, I'm going to comment on what, Roy Williams made the comment that this team needs to be tougher, and you talked about the lack of rebounding. And I think that's what he was getting at, where they weren't tough enough in the second half to get the rebounds that they needed to get. Yeah. And you look on the stat sheet, they out-rebounded Iowa by 9. This is the best.
I knew that was going to be the guy. I told you when we were watching the game, we will out-rebound them, and people will think we had a good night, but we didn't have timely rebounding. When we needed to grab rebounds, we didn't get them.
Yeah. And then you out-rebounded them by 9, but you gave up 14 offensive rebounds, which they converted into 21 second chance points. Yeah. So they got 23 points off of turnovers and 21 second chance points. That's 44 points that you basically gifted
right
them.
There. Yeah.
And on the flip side, you as I mentioned earlier, you got 15 offensive rebounds, but you only got 14 points. They killed you on their second chances, and a lot of times just because you didn't box out right, you didn't box out the right guy, you weren't tough enough to get up and go get the ball. They beat you to the ball, and that's what Roy Williams is saying. This team's got to be tougher. I think this team has shown the ability to get punched in the mouth and fight back, because this happened the last 2 times they've played. Although they've gotten beat, they've responded. The way they've started those second halves, you can tell that Roy Williams is getting through to them, that he's able to get in there. And he's getting his message across, and they're taking it to heart, and then they're applying it onto the court. But it's got to be for 20 minutes. It really needs to be for 40 minutes. But you're asking a lot of a young team in a pandemic era of basketball, where you're trying to just really bounce, where you're going to be able to play the games that you show up to play. So there's a lot of distractions that the team's trying to fight through. And they're just so young, in certain areas, that it's just so hard for Carolina to win when they're as young as they are in situations. But you got to feel confident because they're giving you reasons to be optimistic. The team that we saw last year, even though they were a veteran team, you never felt optimistic about what you were going to go through because you were barely beating Yale at home. You were barely beating UCLA and some other teams. So, so with that, not here for moral victories. You had a chance to win. I picked them to win the game, and at one point I thought in the second half I thought they're going to win it, and then you can build off of this win. It didn't happen, but some news broke while we were recording the Heel Tough Blog podcast today, ironically, as it always seems to happen whenever we're doing one or the other news breaks.
Luckily, we had not done this podcast first. Finally.
Was we mentioned during the Iowa game, or the Iowa preview, that the game against E1 had been postponed due to COVID, and we stressed how important it was for Carolina to find an opponent to play before they play Ohio State in the CBS Sports Classic. They found one. And they're going to host North Carolina Central on Saturday, 2 o'clock in the Smith Center. We're not going to break down the game between Carolina and NCCU. We know what's going to happen. Carolina should win the game. They should win the game rather easily. This game's important because it gives Carolina a chance to get better. And they need this because after you play Ohio State, you're going to the ACC slate. And you start 4 of 6 on the road, and some of those are rivalry emotional games, and it's going to be really hard for a young team to find its footing in the ACC part of the season. How important, or no, we know how important it was for Carolina to schedule this game. Mm-hmm. What does Carolina need to accomplish in the game against NCCU before they have a week layoff and go to Cleveland?
Okay, so the main thing that you've got to accomplish in this game is you've got to come out. This has to be a game where you can take care of the basketball and establish yourself early on offensively, gain a little bit of confidence, hold the lead for the majority or all of the game. Those are the types of things that you want to see in this game. Look, this is no slight against those guys over at at North Carolina Central. That's a team that's been to the tournament multiple times here in recent years. They've got a great head coach. There is a lot to be excited about if you're a North Carolina Central fan. But North Carolina, we're North Carolina. We should come in there and handle them rather easily. It's going to be at home. That's huge because, as you mentioned, Carolina would have gone, almost over a month without playing a home game. So I mean, that's the thing that I think is really big about this game. And the other thing is you've got to remember that, if they didn't play this game, we were talking about it today when we were grabbing our Jersey Mike subs for lunch. Not an official sponsor of the podcast, just wanted to throw that out there that we got those subs because they were really good. And my burps are making me taste them, unfortunately, again. But we said it. If that game would not have been scheduled, you probably enter a must-win type scenario against Ohio State. Now, Ohio State, I don't think Ohio State is as good as – I mean, they're not in the same class as Iowa. That's not even close. I don't even know if they're in the same class as Texas. Going to be honest with you, I haven't watched both teams enough to really get a very strong opinion of either team. But at the same time, you did not want to have to go into that game basically telling yourself, look, we've got to win this game because if not, we're going to go into conference play under 500. So this is huge. Carolina should come out. You want to see, again, main things, hold on to the basketball, maybe get a little more confidence from outside, get a couple of guys to knock down a few more shots because that was, part of the, another not big issue, but something that you would have liked to see Carolina be able to do against Iowa, knock down a couple more of those outside shots. They hit a few important ones, but for the most part, really, believe it or not, outside of Andrew Platek, you had guys that missed some makeable shots from the outside. So you'd like to see them be able to do that. And then again, you really just want to get more experience for your young guys. Caleb Love, you want to see him come in, play well, get some experience. Same thing with R.J. Davis, Walker Kessler as well. There were times, we said it, Walker Kessler played well at times against Iowa. Other times, he was beat up a little bit. So you need to, the more experience that these guys get, the better they're going to be. And, this is a chance to come out and put up some points, get people feeling really confident about you. I think this is going to kind of, believe it or not, kind of tell you where you're at. If this is a game where you struggle like you did last year against those teams that you mentioned, UNCW, Yale, those types of teams, then maybe there's a reason to be concerned. If you come out, win this game handedly, then look, Texas, we just got beat by Texas because, well, that's what Texas does. We got beat by Iowa because Iowa's a really good basketball team. That's what I think you're going to find out in this game, and I think that's ultimately going to be the end result as well. I think Carolina will win pretty handedly, and you'll feel pretty confident coming out.
Yeah, I think this is a good chance for Caleb Love to take a step in the right direction, to progress a little bit, run the offense, get himself in an offensive rhythm because he needs to be a bigger part of this offense scoring the ball. That's what he does best. You like the fact that he's being able to facilitate, but Carolina needs him to put the ball in the basket. Not like Kobe White did at certain times, but he needs to be able to give you 15 to 17 points, but not shooting 4 of 13 from the field to do so. A chance for R.J. Davis to continue to grow as a player on the perimeter, trying to respond defensively as he had a pretty poor defensive effort against Iowa. But I think it's weird. I think this is another. It's still a good chance for Carolina to find out who they are on the interior. This is a good chance to figure out who you can play with and who you can't. We've seen Walker Kessler kind of get some minutes and then he kind of goes away. When he's having an impact on the game, he's grabbing rebounds, he's blocking shots. His offensive game hasn't really been on display to start, but he's been a good part. It's a good chance for Day'Ron Sharpe to continue to really make the case that he should be a starter and really work on playing defense without fouling. It's really hard for him to do that because he plays so hard, and you like that. But I think really for this game, you really look at for Carolina, you got to respond defensively in the right way. Iowa had a great shooting night, and you know that. But some of that you did to yourself with defensive lapses and some other miscues that, you just don't want to.
What was with the New York accent?
Yeah,
I got mixed in there.
I don't know what happened there. Hopefully we'll come out of this game feeling positive. I don't want to come on here like I had to do after we played Gardner-Webb last year and realize that I knew that team was going to be in trouble. I don't want to have that kind of same feeling. I don't have an epiphany of last year. So hopefully they come out and they get a pretty big win. And so, with that, we'll have you covered on the Heel Tough Blog website. We'll go ahead and take you to that part of the podcast as we begin to shut this thing down. We've been with you all the way through football season. A big week for Carolina football as I go to Miami on Saturday, playing for a chance to go to the Orange Bowl if they find a way to beat the Hurricanes. We'll have you covered with the preview. We recorded the podcast earlier today, so you'll have that. And then in the postgame, we'll have a recap, a trench report, and a stock report. We will go ahead and warn you this weekend. Our coverage will be slightly delayed. Me and Anthony are out of town this weekend doing the Bash tournament in Columbia, South Carolina. Pretty exciting thing for us individually as sports fans.
Tune in, your boy over there is going to be calling the game.
I'm going to be on the call 3 straight days calling a great high school basketball event in the state of South Carolina. So we'll still have you covered with the football game and the basketball game. Hopefully my man Mark Crease can come through with the preview and a recap. Just understand that it will be delayed, and that's the reason why. But we do encourage you guys to go to the website, HeelToughBlog.com, and like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at HeelToughBlog.com. And last, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Come on every major podcasting platform. We're most notably on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts. Give us a like. Review me as the host, review Anthony as the co-host, review Mark whenever he comes on here and talks a little Carolina basketball. But most importantly, we want you guys to subscribe. That way you get every episode in your podcast feed. We do usually a game-by-game podcast as much as we can with our ever-flex work schedule. So with that, I want to thank Anthony for taking some time as we've been pretty busy at work this week. Normally we make a joke about how busy we are or how busy we aren't. We're busy this week working.
This week we're not lying.
We still made time to go here and talk a little Carolina basketball. We thank you guys for listening, and as always, go Tar Heels.